This is an ultimate global podcast. Hello, and welcome to our Daily Dose podcast, covering all about day-to-day global affairs. You're listening to Saurabh Kora and George Mavros from Sydney.
Hello, good evening to everyone who is joining us from Sydney and around the world. Today we have a very special topic, which is obviously close to my heart, and also it's quite trending for around a month or so now. Today's Monday Daily Dose podcast is on UN SDGs or social affairs. And underneath that, we talk about or we touch base about the topic on empowering the women in Afghanistan, which is quite trending in the world these days. And there cannot be a better person to talk about this than our special guest today, whose name is Maryam Popal Zahid. She is the founder of Afghan Women on the Move. And she has been doing an incredible job in the last couple of years to empower women, to raise her voice in terms of getting all the Afghan women together to fight for their basic rights in Afghanistan. What has happened recently is quite a disaster after the Taliban taking over, and some of the signals that they have shown are not quite prominent in terms of supporting women. And so we would like to hear Mariam's voice today as well to understand some of the latest information which is coming from Afghanistan, because we recently heard on Friday there was a protest outside the presidential palace by the women, and it was not as smooth as possible. In fact, we also heard some violence entering into that protest. Do you know about that, Mariam?
Hi, Saraf, and thank you very much for inviting me. And hello to our friends that are watching us online. There's so much happening right now in Afghanistan, and there's so much happening even around the world to address the Afghanistan conflict that is on the ground. So as much as you guys are aware and can watch from the news, that's how much I know as well. The only difference is that I am also in contact with Afghan women and our families back home with very limited access to internet and to other social media platforms. And due to some security reasons, they're not very much feeling safe and secure to tell me exactly what's happening. But to what we are watching online and on the news, they are quite worrying and disturbing, because that is true. What we have heard to what Taliban have promised when they took over a month ago or 2 weeks ago, this is not how things are taking shape. But there are still, we are waiting for to see once their government form to kind of see where women are in that area. And because so far, whatever we are watching, whatever they are doing with women, about women, for women, we are not very convinced.
And what about this fact that we are still not able to understand the true face that the Taliban is trying to portray at the moment? It's quite difficult to understand their double games at the moment. So,
Yeah.
were you able to collect anything from inside for our audience who might be listening from Australia, India, and maybe around the world, for their knowledge as to what's this double game which is going on? And we might not have the right answers, but do you have any information that you have collected?
No, there is no right answer at this point. It feels like we are from Taliban number one to Taliban number two. The only difference is we can see that they are more equipped with technology and having mobile phones, and they are pretty okay to talk on the camera. 21 years ago or 22 years ago, they were not even were happy with social media and TVs and stuff. So that's the only difference I can see. But I can't tell exactly what are their plans, because every day things are unfolding, and this unknown is scaring us, is scaring me, scaring my families, my community, and even international communities around the world. So yeah, we are watching, we are praying. To be honest, I never felt this broken and hopeless before, because to look at the Taliban or the regime that they are going to bring back in 21st century, and we have to wait for them to tell us how to live our lives, especially for women. It's quite shocking. I have spoken to many women, families, communities. They, more than anything, they are as shocked and as numb as me and as yourself, to kind of put the pieces together to what really happened and how come they are back. But again, there is no forever for any injustice in the world. So they might be here for another month, 2 months, 1 year, 2 year, but if they don't serve the civilians, if they don't serve the men and women, they don't treat men and women equally, they will see the resistance and the backlash.
Also, Mariam, 2 to 3 days back, I was discussing on my Daily Dose podcast with another participant, and he was a student from UNSW. So we were discussing about this fact that how Qatar can now play a major role in actually becoming a mediator between the two players, because Qatar is known to have close ties with the Taliban as well as with the United States. Do you think Qatar coming into this picture and actually trying to act as a mediator and solve this problem, or at least have some sort of agreement between the two parties?
Yeah. If Qatar given birth to Taliban, right? How they can become a mediator? How can they kind of contradict their mentality, ideology, political views, social impact in Afghanistan? So we're not going to just wait or hope that Qatar can fix things or can mediate and bring things in a level of understanding and create that balanced approach. It is a responsibility of all international powerful platforms to be engaged and to make sure that there shouldn't be one size fits all in Afghanistan, because Afghanistan is quite diverse. Afghanistan has layers of complexity in terms of their political and social. So that's why if we just wait for one country to come and mediate, knowing that Taliban is coming from that particular country or particular platform, then what do you expect? It just kind of feels like they're gonna soften or sugarcoating things to implement exactly what they have planned. So, and it's not, we are not living back in 2001 or 1999 when they were, when Afghanistan was in a very isolated and vulnerable position. Now people are speaking. Now me and you are speaking. There are women and men are speaking around the world. So no matter what happens, if things doesn't happen fairly, yeah, we will keep talking and we will be fighting, and we will make sure that our international platform, our leaders, the countries that were involved in the 20 years of their political agendas and whatever else that they have in mind in Afghanistan, not to just now say, okay, we have no interest in Afghanistan. They are accountable for everything that is happening in Afghanistan, because Afghanistan is in the heart of Asia, and that's centralizing, in that space. If Afghanistan doesn't find peace, I don't think none of these countries around, the neighboring countries, and eventually that political and social in Afghanistan will impact the rest of the world as well. We know that, and history has shown us as well that Afghanistan is a very special place in the world. So if the world is not nice to it, then none of us will live in peace.
Absolutely, Mariam. And what do you think about this short-term future or in the long-term future for Afghanistan? So as of now, we see that a lot of countries like United States, Australia, they are trying to help in whatever ways they can in terms of bringing back the refugees from Afghanistan and also providing any kind of support which is needed. But what do you think is the short-term solution or the long-term solution that you see as per your experience of seeing both the Taliban, the Afghan government? So you have seen all kind of eras in Afghanistan. So on the basis of your experience, what do you feel is the future that you are looking for in terms of empowerment of women, in terms of the basic rights that the women demand in Afghanistan? Are they going to remain there in the coming years? Or what do you think is the solution for that? and how can the world actually come together, not in terms of just this podcast, but also in terms of adding some value, because we want to add some value through this podcast and take the message to people around the world.
First of all, it's our social responsibility. It's our responsibility as a human beings to help a community, a country that are in need of your help. So you don't have to be involved in Afghanistan politically to feel responsible. If another woman is seeking help, if another child is looking for a safe home, if another man wants to live in a better place, if you have that opportunity, if you have that platform, if you have that capacity, you don't have to wait for the whole country to go and help somebody somewhere else. So that's on the individual space. When it comes to community, the same rules can apply, that collectively communities can reach out in Afghanistan, especially the 5 million people that are displaced. Afghanistan has 35 million people in this past couple of months or weeks of war. All this sudden war displaced so many people around Afghanistan. So we have about 5 million people displaced in Afghanistan. So to your question of the immediate help can be humanitarian help. Now the banks are open in Afghanistan. You can use other money order platforms to reach out, to do fundraising, to make sure that people that are not dying of hunger, because that's something that a lot of countries, when the war breaks, that's the first thing that they will need to survive. And then, as a medium to long-term help in Afghanistan, there has to be a lot of advocacy, humanitarian work, lobbying our governments to be still involved in a way in Afghanistan, not to just interfere and make decision for Afghanistan, not knowing the complexity of their social and political views and cultural aspect of Afghanistan, because until Afghanistan and until Afghan government does not have this inclusive government by all ethnic groups, by men and women, they will not function in a way as a government should do. Because recent past 2 weeks or 3 weeks, a lot of our well-known people, individuals, communities, brains left Afghanistan. So Taliban left with what? And you need brain, you need people, you need men and women to bring a balance to your government and to give back to your civilians, to the people of your country. So for us as an international community, we must keep talking. We must make sure that this momentum of let's help Afghanistan, put religious and political views aside, and don't underestimate the power of people. So the power of people, individually, groups, communities, can reach out to Afghanistan, and they can reach people like me and so many others in the communities in other countries as well. We are very well in contact with people on the ground in Afghanistan, and they will need from emotional, psychological, social, psychological, financial. They need help, and we can help them. So I'm not going to rely on Taliban no matter what they say, and I'm not going to be even scared of them in such a way not to go and help Afghanistan. Maybe not, I'm not being able to go physically right now, but nobody can stop us, and nobody should stop us to help rescue people, to make sure that they don't die of hunger and depression and anxiety.
Absolutely. And I think this is the most disastrous thing you can ever think of. If people are dying from hunger, or they are not able to get their basic rights. And that's what we keep on talking about. One of the UN Sustainable Development Goals actually talks about this very important thing of gender equality, and how United Nations has been pushing forward this thing across the countries to make sure that not only Afghanistan, but all the countries are following this principle of gender equality, because still women don't have an equal participation in a lot of areas around the world. It has increased over the years in a lot of countries, but still, That's why we call upon the reservation for women, because there are a lot of cases where we see that the women are not given equal opportunities. Some people might term it as a feminism, but I generally don't term it as a feminism, because I feel that they have not been treated equally and they should be given equal rights in the coming few years. Because this has been going on for decades and decades. You have been an inspirational story, Mariam, because you came here as an Afghan refugee, isn't it?
That's
And
right.
coming here as an Afghan refugee, and now reaching out to this level that you have become the founder of the Afghan Women on the Move, and you're leading this movement, and you're becoming the voice of those large number of women in Afghanistan is an incredible job. And when women might be looking up to you, they might be seeing you as an inspiration and somebody they might want to become in the future.
Mhm.
Do you want to
Thank you.
share? Do you want to share your story? How you came to Australia? Maybe the women who are listening to you can inspire from your story today.
Um, uh, well, I to begin with, I created, or I came to bring Afghan Women on the Move brand. Was the initial hope was to find friends, to find a safe platforms, to find place where women can come outside of religious and political views, because we are very much bound by structural views of generations and generations, that some of these aspects doesn't apply to us anymore. So that this platform become a safe platform, a platform of advocacy, a platform of friendship. Through this, I'm not sure if I have inspired anyone, but I did certainly made a lot of friends that they can resonate with my journey. They were also looking for friends. They were also looking for a platform where they were not discriminated from to where they're from, what they believe, what they don't believe. So those things were my initial steps that this Afghan Woman on the Move really kind of taken in a space where I'm talking now with a very inspirational individual like yourselves as well. When I came to Australia 22 years ago, and I'm saying this one to our audience so they can kind of compare now the recent new arrivals and see this from a different perspective. And I'm going to be very bold here because it's a huge difference. When I came 22 years ago in Australia, I came with no prior education and work experience, right? So I came as a 20 years old young girl, but coming to Australia, starting from a new language, a new society and culture, and there's so many layers of obstacles and new stuff. And at that time, there was no Facebook, there was no mobile phones, there were no friends from outside the world. So it was just me coming from one extreme, literally to another extreme. It took me 20 years to be where I am. I don't know how far I've come, but at least I can speak the language a little bit, and I can express my concerns, and I can say no to things that I don't want, and I can say to the things that I really want, and I can advocate even for myself. So for the Afghans, or for the men and women that are on the way here, and some of them are already in Australia, they are coming from a space of visibility. 20 years of Afghanistan has been enormous. Afghan men and women, especially young generation, has achieved so much. And that has given them lots of tools, many tools now, that they will come here. They don't have to wait like me for a couple of years to learn the language. They are not illiterate in technology. They will know what outside will look like. So they will quickly pick up on things. So our responsibility here in Australia, to our friends, to our communities, to make sure that they don't fall into the gaps and to stamp as a refugee, or people came from Afghanistan. Oh my God, and we pity on them and just feel like leave them on Centrelink payments. And I'm saying this one so everybody can hear me. So if we can get them employments, if we can quickly become their friends, if we don't kind of stigmatize their journey as somebody that they have nothing and they come to somewhere that because most of them they come from places where they had stuff, they had work, education, family, friends. And now I'm so excited to see Afghan young girls that we have already 4,100 Afghans from Afghanistan in the past 3 weeks. So our government also did their best to this sudden shock. Still needs a lot needs to be done. We expect more families and friends that are really in danger to come to Australia, but also we're not going to expect the whole 35 million Afghans to leave Afghanistan. So we have to create a balance in our future discussions to how to mobilize community and how to create a balanced approach to all this chaos that's happening right now in Afghanistan and here in Australia, accommodating them.
Yeah, and I think that's what a role model is, Mariam, because a role model is a person who has really struggled in his or her life and has come out of that struggle and then become an inspiration for the community. That's why I always call you a role model for other women, because you have come through that hard time, which and then made yourself to an individual which you are now. You're a strong individual. You're always committed towards this one issue of empowering the women of Afghanistan, because there are a lot of people doing a lot of different things, but sticking to one issue with the same commitment, with the same rigor each and every day, I know it's very hard. And when you have the entire world and these strong forces like Taliban working against you, it might be really, really hard for you to, again come back with the same power on the next day and say that, I want to fight for the rights of women. So this is an inspiration for me as an individual from you to get that.
Thanks to your words are very kind. One, I define women empowerment or to empower women. I just want them to believe in themselves. They already have power. They already have this empowerment and all the energy, skills. It is just that as a bigger society, we need to accommodate men and women to have that power and showcase that. So for my message is to Afghan men and women and our families, friends, and watching us, whoever, it's just that you got to believe in yourself, and there's no right and wrong in life. Especially now that we're living in this contemporary world and society, we're coming with different ideas, we're coming with different approaches. We are more learning how to accept. There's a lot of acceptance now embedded in our younger generations. If we kind of take a deep breath before we judge, before we could assume and assume things, things will quickly fall into their places. So that's how I found myself where I am, that people has given me and still are giving me chances like today to believe in me, to believe in my voice, and that's itself. It's vice versa, like you giving me a chance, I give you a chance. It just and yes, the law of attraction works, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely, Mariam. And as we were talking about the refugees which have already been here in Australia or UK or Canada, but do you have any special message for people or the women who are in Afghanistan at the moment, or who might be under that trauma that the Taliban can do anything with them at this moment, or they might be afraid of what's happening in their country and might want to leave their country, but still they don't have any choice, that they have to stay in Kabul or they have to stay in that particular area where they are at the moment because of several reasons. It might not be just the external forces, but some of the internal reasons because they are forced to stay there. So, do you have any message for them that uh, really inspires them to take away from this episode?
There's your question is quite deep and difficult for me to answer in a way to just give them one answer to live with. But I have also lived for 20 years in Afghanistan and overseas, under the rule of Taliban and few other powerful and male-dominated society. One thing that you can do is also to know that you have space. You got to be strong in that space, because if you say that I can't do it here and until I don't go somewhere else, then you don't have that base in you. So Afghan women already have that base. They have fought so hard for the past 40 years, or maybe even more than that, that they got to believe that with Taliban, without Taliban, even the past 20 years, still women were under a lot of pressure and discrimination. So it wasn't the perfect world for Afghan women in the past 20 years either. It's just that now this Taliban bring another couple of more layers of obstacles for Afghan women, but for them to believe that they have the base. They have the base now that they can fight for themselves, and they don't have to go so extreme. Just because at the moment everybody is emotional, right? Everybody is so scared. So when you're emotional and scared, your body reacts, your brain reacts. Things become unrealistic. Things will not make sense, and you might regret some of your actions, especially when there's a chaos. So if they kind of take a little bit of a step back and we kind of work with them, as I said, we cannot take everybody out. That's something that we all have, but how to work with them in Afghanistan and how they can work with us here. And as I said, if Taliban is not fair, they will not last forever. And Taliban is not forever. If they're not fair, if they don't bring women and men equally on the table. When I say equally. So it's not that, oh, Taliban is nice because he lets me to go and become a nurse. No, when Taliban gave me a choice of being me myself, the way I talk, the way I see, the way I do, the way I choose my career, will be a Taliban where we can kind of sit down on the table. But at the moment, we have the base, and they have to believe that they have the base of this. They can find a way, and they don't have to wait for international communities to come and put them in the plane and bring them here. This is not the solution.
Absolutely, Maryam. And that's where I think the other countries can also play a major role, because now Taliban is portraying themselves to the international arena as if they have changed. And it's very important for them to showcase that, because of the Afghanistan economy being in a drought at the moment. And that's why they are in search for investors. And the investors can come from the friends that Afghanistan has created over the years, including the neighboring countries like Pakistan and India. Recently, in the last week, we saw that the Indian government, who never supported a Taliban, for the first time have started some kind of talks with the Taliban. Now, we don't know what really happened in those talks. We need to get those details, but they have started talking to Taliban in the sense that what help they might be requiring in building Afghanistan back. But now these countries also have to realize that when they sit on that same table, they make sure that these issues are also raised, that we will only trade with you if you follow these principles. If you don't touch women in your country, if you don't do these things in your country. So I think those countries can eventually put pressure through trade, through indirect routes, that the Taliban might want to rebuild Afghanistan.
Correct. And that's exactly what I meant before, that advocacy lobbying. We must not stop lobbying with our governments, MPs, politicians, to make sure that when those talks behind the closed doors take place, women must be part of the agenda. Not that, oh, we're going to give this to women. It's not like that. We must be part of the discussions from the beginning, because it's going to slow the government. Let's give the Taliban a benefit of doubt and say Taliban will do best. But if they come after they forming their government and they say, oh, Afghan women can do only certain things, they're going to be a backlash. Then they have to start all over again and convincing people. And this time we're not be convinced by just giving us this certain kind of amount of space that you can all thought that women will do this. Afghan women are not the same as 20 years ago, or another Maryam that was born 20 years ago is not the Maryam that was born 40 years ago. So there's a lot needs to be considered. And keep lobbying, keep talking, and let's keep this conversation going, sir.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for today's Daily Dose podcast. We also hope to see you, Maryam, in another episode in which I've already invited you, which will be on another theme, which is under the same topic. So the theme on that day is with foreign diplomacy. And we might also have George Mavros with us who is the co-founder of Ultimate Global Podcast. And then all three of us can, in fact, talk about the diplomatic issues of Afghanistan. Until that time, I think it's on 16th of September. So till that time, we will be having 1 month of evaluation of how Afghanistan looks like. And we might touch base upon the diplomatic angle to see and to take Afghanistan out of where it is today. That's it for today. Thank you so much, Maryam, for your participation. We hope to see you again.